let's dive in and start working through the topic that you guys have asked us to tackle first. We're going to talk about the biggest one. We're going to talk about the most intense one. We're going to talk about the one that I guess you could say kind of all the other things that we talk about flow out of. So I guess it makes sense to tackle this first, right? But there was a massive list of things that took up like half the board over the past few months in our Wednesday night services that you guys had asked us to spend some time working through on Wednesday nights. And one of those things was the most foundational question in the world. Why do we believe Christianity is true? Why do we believe Christianity is true? Now, we've talked about this in kind of smaller, shorter bursts in the past. We've done some kind of short sermon series on why we believe. We've had a few Ask Me Anything services that tackle a few of the different reasons why we believe. But one of the things that you guys have asked pretty frequently is, can you just break down the very big picture of why we believe Christianity rather than every other option that is out there over the course of however many weeks on Wednesday night? And so we're going to do that over however many Wednesdays it takes. What I did was I have a whole bunch of notes breaking this issue down. I don't have a specific target for how much to get through tonight versus next week versus the week after that. We're just going to get through however much of it we can each week. And if it takes 4 weeks, then it takes 4 weeks. If it takes 8 weeks, then it takes 8 weeks, and on and on and on. But we're going to break this down in depth together. So, before we talk about anything else, I want to kind of start off with a question. Out of all the religions in the world, why should we believe this one? There are, depending on who you ask, something like 3,000 religions in the world. Why are we in a church tonight instead of a mosque? Why are we in a church right now instead of a synagogue? Why are we in a church right now instead of a temple to one of the 2,999 approximately other religions? Why, out of all the religions in the world, should we believe this one? It's really important that we do the kind of uncomfortable work of asking this question here and now, because our culture has a whole lot of different answers to this question, and most of them are not true. Can you think of a handful of the ways that our culture would typically answer this question? Why do Christians believe this as opposed to other things? What are some common answers that you hear a lot of times?
Well, if you believe what the Bible says, but then other people say, well, we don't believe the Bible.
Yeah.
But if you believe what the Bible says, and then there's lots of proof that the Bible is true,
Yeah.
you can show people why you believe believe Bible, and then turn like you believe Christianity.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so if you believe what the Bible says, then Christianity, it follows, is the truth. If you don't believe what the Bible says, then you're not going to find it very convincing to believe that Christianity is true, as opposed to the approximately 2,999 other options there are out there. But yes, you're exactly right, and we're going to get to that. There are very, very good reasons to believe what the Bible says. But yeah, so that's a good reason to believe Christianity is true. What are some of the other reasons that we often hear, whether they're good reasons or bad reasons? Yeah.
No experience believing anything else.
Yeah. So most of the time, most of the people that we talk to, if we said, why do you believe whatever your belief system is, whether you are Christian or Muslim or Hindu or any other number of things, the average person, if you ask them, they're going to say, well, that's what I was raised to believe. He says, okay, cool. If you were born 8,000 miles over there, you would have been raised to believe something else. So who's right? Right? If you had been born in that country over there, you would have been raised to believe something very, very different. If you had been born in America at a different point in time, you would have been raised to believe something very different. Actually, kids who are being born right here and now in America are way less likely to be raised to believe Christianity than they were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, and so on and so forth. So once upon a time, you could say by being born in America, you were probably going to be told this is the truth, not that, and then spend your whole life believing that, whether or not you had good reasons. Today, being born in America, you are very likely going to be told nothing. You're going to be told a whole bunch of stuff about politics and very little about your faith, right? Every time you almost get in a car accident or something like that, they're going to say like, oh my God, and you're going to be like, what's that? And you're going to be like, don't worry about it, right? But yeah, most of the time, most people, the answer that they would give is, this is what I was raised to believe. Question: does the fact that you were raised to believe something have anything to do with whether it's true? No. We need a better reason. We need a lot of better reasons. And here's the thing. In our culture, because of the fact that for most people, the beginning, middle, and end of their faith, whatever it is, has been, I was raised to believe this, therefore this is the truth, has led to a situation where today in our culture, there's kind of an assumption that nothing is actually true. Know what I'm talking about? You meet a lot of people today. The basic assumption that most people seem to hold is that it doesn't really matter what is true. That it doesn't really matter what you believe. You ever heard a version of this? I believe in a higher power. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, that's actually not a new idea. One of my favorite presidents, I would punch him in the face, though, if we were having this conversation. He said, America is built on a firmly held religious belief, and I do not care what it is. He said, it doesn't really matter what you believe as long as you're religious. He said, I don't like atheists, but I don't care what's actually true. And I'm like, why do you like that? What? That's baked into our culture. The notion that it doesn't matter what you believe so long as you are happy, right? Or it doesn't matter what you believe so long as you are a good person. It doesn't matter what you believe so long as you are kind to other people. It doesn't matter what you believe so long as you're respectful to other people, and on and on and on. Here's what ends up happening. Our culture confuses truth with opinion, right? Our culture confuses truth with preferences. Our culture confuses truth with feelings. It confuses truth with sincerity, and so forth. And as a result, our culture says a whole lot of things. This is in the water of what a lot of us are kind of raised to believe now. People will say things like, live your truth. You ever heard that term before? Okay, now originally that was a therapy term and it meant a very, very different thing. When a therapist says live your truth, what they're saying is you don't have to believe the things that your mind says to you. You can put those things away and you can build new beliefs. That's what they're talking about when they say that. But our culture took that phrase and used it in a very different way. Our culture often says live your truth in a way that means what? You get to decide what's true. That you get to decide what's true for you. He gets to decide what's true for him. She gets to decide what is true for her. And as long as nobody's hurting each other, it doesn't really matter which one's actually true. Here's another one. You ever heard somebody say some version of this? Everybody has their own truth. Truth is whatever works for you. Or if something helps you, then for you, that is true. Ever heard some version of that? Another version of this is every religion is equally true. One of my teachers when I was growing up back in school, she said, I believe that all of the religions are true. She said, I believe that every religion is equally valid. I believe that every religion is just a different path to the same place, right? I said, okay, but at this point in time, I was not a Christian, but I was still I had kind of an intense BS detector. It got me in trouble a lot. But I was like, okay, but so this religion over here says this guy is God. That one says he's not. So how can those both be true? She was like, well, it's just, for them, it's like it feels like he's God, and for them, it feels like he's not. And, maybe he's not, but they like to feel like he's God. And I'm like, okay, but that means that he's not. That means that, these people are right and those people are wrong. You just don't want to hurt their feelings. But she said, everyone's truth is equally valid. Two totally different things can be equally true. This can be true for them. That can be true for them. If these people sincerely believe this over here, how can we say that they're wrong? If those people sincerely believe that over there, how can we say that they are wrong? The fundamental kind of message that our culture teaches today is it doesn't really matter what is true. You ever had a conversation with somebody where they ultimately said, hey, who cares if Christianity is true or not? Maybe you're talking to somebody about the faith. Maybe you're sharing your faith with them. And eventually it gets to the point where they just say, does it really matter whether Christianity is true? Does it really matter whether the Bible is true? Does it really matter whether God exists? Why are we starting here? It's because if you go outside the doors of the church and you start talking with people about your faith, you can start laying down reasons why you believe in God. You can start laying down reasons why you believe the Bible in particular. You can start laying down reasons why you believe Christianity rather than any of these other options. And most of the time, the response you're going to get today in 2026 is, who cares? Who cares if Christianity is true or not? Who cares whether any belief system is true? That's the starting point that we're actually at today. And so before we can even start to talk about, 5 reasons why we should believe in God, or 6 reasons why we should believe the Bible, or whatever, we've got to answer the question, who cares? Why does it matter? What is and isn't true? Is it even possible to know what is and isn't true? So, this is a weird place to start, but we're going to start off this series on Wednesday nights by talking about why we believe truth exists, so that we can talk about why we believe Christianity is true. Because when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to Jesus, Jesus came into the world and he made a very specific set of claims about himself. Jesus came into the world. This dude showed up on the scene about 2,000 years ago, and he didn't say, hey, I have got a way of living that is going to make you very happy. Now, that actually is part of what he did. But that's not the root of what he said. He didn't come and say, hey, I have a set of ideas that are going to add a lot of meaning to your life. It absolutely does do that. But that's not what he came here to do. Jesus came onto the scene 2,000 years ago. And he said in John 18:37 and 38, I have come into the world to testify to the truth. He said, I am here to reveal the truth about God, the truth about you, humanity, the truth about what life is about, the truth about why the world exists, the truth about what matters and what doesn't matter, the truth about what gives meaning to everything and purpose, the truth about, you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Life, the universe, and everything? Okay, well, hey, not everybody here's a nerd. But he said, I have come here to testify to the truth. He said in John 8:31 and 32, that when you know the truth will set you free. He said the truth will liberate you. He said right now, you are not free. And part of why you're not free is because you don't have the truth. I'm going to set you free with the truth. And in John 17:17, he said, your word is truth, as he was praying to the Father. He says the standard by which we find truth is the word of the Lord. He said, I am here to reveal the truth. And so he says, one of the most famous quotes in all of Scripture, it's John 14:6. This is one that your grandma made you learn. She beat you when you got words wrong and stuff. Hopefully not. But he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. When he says that, what's he saying? He's saying that he is the truth. If Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, that means he is saying, I am not just one option among a whole bunch of other ones. He's presenting himself as the one option that is actually true. So, Christianity presents itself as the pathway to the truth about God, the universe, meaning, purpose, good, bad, right, wrong, truth, falsehood, and so forth. And that means it matters whether or not it's true. So, what is truth? That's not a rhetorical question. If I said, this is the truth, what am I saying? What is truth? How would you define it? Okay, something that can be proven. Yeah, what else? So truth is something that at least theoretically in some way can be proven. Forgot a question mark. What is truth? How do you distinguish between something that is true and is not true?
The facts.
Yeah, the facts. Okay, exactly. Yeah. So, truth is the facts. Truth is something that can be proven, or at least you can provide maybe evidence for it, or other things like that, right? Yeah. Anything else? How would you define truth? It's the difference between something that is truth versus something that's just kind of, I don't know, your opinion, or your idea, or whatever. It's right, yeah. Yeah, so the truth is something that is facts. The truth is something that is right. The truth is something that is potentially provable or disprovable, right? Yeah, so truth is a very specific thing. And truth is not a bunch of other very specific things. First things first, truth is not opinion. Truth does not mean opinion. These are not going to be very sophisticated notes, but if you want to write better ones down, go for it. Yeah, so an opinion is not the same as a fact, right? What's the difference between an opinion and a fact? You cannot prove an opinion. Yeah, that is exactly right. Yeah. You can potentially prove or disprove a fact claim. You cannot prove or disprove an opinion. A statement is an opinion if it's just like about your preferences, right? So, quick question. Chocolate is a flavor of ice cream. Is that a fact or an opinion? Okay, good. All right. I thought I was going to fake you out. Okay. Chocolate is the best flavor of ice cream. Fact or opinion? Okay, we're divided on this one. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So that is an opinion. It's an opinion I agree with. And, I put a lot of weight on my opinion, but still. Yeah. So, okay, blue is a color. Fact, opinion? Fact, yeah. Blue is not a shape. Fact or opinion? Also fact, yeah, okay. Blue is the prettiest color. Fact or opinion? There we go. I can't just make it one after another. It's gotta, there we go, yeah, okay. I like country music. Fact or opinion? Okay, yeah, that's good, that's good. Anime is for children. Fact or opinion? Opinion, and clearly one I disagree with. I'm wearing a whole shirt, right? Yeah, so Ford trucks break down more often than Toyota trucks. Fact or opinion? Fact. It's unfortunate. Oh, there we go. I'm a Ford driver, so it brings me no joy. Brings me no joy. Yeah, okay, so facts are not opinions. Truth is not opinions. An opinion is just kind of like a personal preference or like a personal idea, but it may or may not have anything to do with reality. You can't prove anything about it and so on. But facts are different. What is a fact? A fact is something that is true. Yeah. It took me a really long time trying to literally think of a way to define fact. I was just like sitting at my computer. I was like, it's not fake. It's, I don't know. But yeah, no, truth is like telling it like it actually is. A statement is true if it accurately describes reality. A statement is false if it does not correspond to reality. So, here's another quiz. This water bottle is white. I'm colorblind, so I had to really think. Fact or not? Yeah, okay. Let's say fact or fiction. Yeah, we're done with opinion. Okay, yeah, so this room is, oh man, I was going to say cold or hot, but that's kind of also an opinion, isn't it? Yeah, depending on how you like things, right? This room is small as far as church sanctuaries go. Fact or fiction? That's a fact, yeah. I should have thought of better examples here, right? But yeah, so a fact is something that accurately describes reality. So the Earth orbits the sun. I know that's weirdly becoming controversial again on the internet, but it's a fact, right? North Carolina borders Virginia. Is that a fact or is that fiction? Okay, North Carolina borders California. Fact or fiction? Fiction. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's the thing about facts. Reality determines what is and is not a fact. And in the same way, reality determines truth. So, truth is not opinion. Truth is facts and reality. Therefore, what? Human beings have no control over what is and isn't true. Know what I'm talking about? We cannot control what is true. Truth does not care what we think. You know what I mean when I say that? Truth doesn't care how we feel. Truth doesn't care what we want. Truth just is. Truth describes reality. So, trying to think of how best to put this. Trying to think of a good example. Again, I should probably have one written down, right? Gravity existed before we ever discovered it. So a dude named Isaac Newton discovered gravity one time when he was throwing an apple. You heard the story back in school, right? Kept throwing an apple and he missed one of the times, and so it hit him in the face. Probably got a bloody nose, all that stuff, and he was like, hey, okay, things just fall. That's what happens. If there's not something under a thing, it falls. If there wasn't a ground beneath us, we'd just be falling, and we would never stop falling, right? That's gravity. Gravity existed before Isaac Newton figured it out. Gravity didn't suddenly start existing when Isaac Newton found it. People weren't floating around, and then he was like, hey, I just got an idea. What if there was gravity? And then everybody hit the ground. It existed already. One of the most recent planets that was discovered in our solar system was Neptune. For a very long time, we didn't know about Neptune. Neptune did not come into existence when we discovered it. Neptune was already there, and then we learned about it. These are not great examples, but what does it mean? It means the truth is happening whether we know about it or not. Now, this is kind of abstract. It's kind of philosophical. But reality is happening whether we are paying attention to it or not. We don't create reality. We discover reality. And reality, truth, facts, are not determined by how we feel about them. Why am I saying that? It's because, like we talked about at the very beginning, our culture does a very specific thing. Our culture says, how can you say those very sincere people from that religion over there are wrong? How can you say those sincere Muslims are wrong? How can you say those sincere Christians are wrong? How can you say those sincere Buddhists are wrong? How can you say those sincere Hindus are wrong? And on and on and on. That if we are sincere enough about what we believe, then it's arrogant to say they're wrong about it. But truth isn't determined by how we feel about it. And truth isn't determined by how sincere we are. So we often just kind of judge ideas based on how they make us feel. But we can feel very good about things and they not be true. And we can feel very bad about things and them still be true. So, if you have cancer and you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, your cancer test was negative, but it was actually positive. Your doctor just made you feel really good. What's going to happen? You're going to drive home. You're going to throw a I don't have cancer party. And then for months and months and months, the cancer is going to keep growing in your body. And eventually it's going to consume you from the inside out, and you're going to die. The fact that you felt very good because he said your cancer test was negative changes nothing about that. It feels very good, but it's false. In the same way, if the mechanic tells you that your engine has experienced catastrophic damage, and you should not drive your car unless you absolutely have to until you get it fixed. That feels very bad because that is going to be at least a 4-digit mechanic fee, right? And yet, if it's true, it's true. And if you drive your car home and then you drive it to work the next day and then you drive it to your kid's birthday party and then you drive it down to Washington, D.C. for that the 250 celebration or whatever, and on and on and on, what is eventually going to happen? Your engine is going to catch fire because your engine has catastrophic damage whether you feel good about it or not. And in exactly the same way, sincerity does not affect what is true. History is filled with people who very sincerely believed things that in hindsight are absolute nonsense, right? Once upon a time, if you got sick, they would put a bunch of leeches on your body so that they would suck the bad blood out of you. They were like, okay, you got some bad blood in you, we just got to suck the bad blood out, and then you'll have nothing but good blood left, you'll be good. Whole lot of people got leech treatment every single week to make sure they had good blood, and in hindsight, that probably killed them a whole lot faster, right? Once upon a time, a whole bunch of people got burned at the stake because they were believed to be witches, whether that was true or not, and yet the people who presided over the Salem witch trials and so forth, they sincerely believed that there was an epidemic of witchcraft that they could only stop by burning a bunch of witches. The fact that they were sincere about that didn't change anything about whether it was true or not. Here's maybe actually good example. Imagine if you were taking care of a loved one and they had very important medication. If they don't get that medication every single day, they're going to get very, very sick and die. It matters which bottle you pull the pill out of and give to them, right? Imagine that there are two pill bottles that look very, very similar. Imagine you grab the wrong pill bottle one day, and that happens to be the day that you're filling up the little pill organizer thing. And so every single day this week, the wrong pill is going in. It's some old painkiller from 11 years ago that you were supposed to throw away, but of course nobody does, right? And so they're getting an old painkiller every day instead of the life-saving medication that they need every day. What is going to happen over the course of that week? It's going to get worse and worse and worse. Even though you sincerely believe that they are taking the right medication. Your sincerity changes nothing about what is true and what is not. The reason that we're starting with all of this is because our culture's basic attitude is it does not matter what you believe so long as you are sincere. It doesn't matter what you believe so long as it makes you feel good. It doesn't matter what you believe so long as you are a good person. It doesn't matter what you believe so long as you are respectful of others. And you absolutely should be respectful of other people. And I want you to feel good. And, I want you to be happy. And I want you to be a good person, and on and on and on and on. And yet, it absolutely matters what you believe, because what you believe affects every other thing in your life. We instinctively understand in every other part of life that there is a difference between what is true and what is not, and that it matters. And yet when we get to religion, the spiritual world, questions about the God of the universe, why we exist, what we are here for, suddenly our culture says everybody has their own truth. But that is not true when it comes to God, the universe, and everything, any more than it is the pill bottles in your, what's the thing called? The bathroom thing, whatever. The thing where you put your pills. There's the word. Yeah. So, it actually does matter which religion is true. It actually does matter which God is real. And we have to search for the truth about these things, just like we have to search for the truth about whether you can cure cancer with leeches or with chemotherapy. Cure was the wrong word, but you know what I mean. And so, when our culture says it doesn't really matter what's true, our response needs to be, the truth matters in every other part of life, so it has to matter in this one. That's about all of the time we're going to have for this. And so we're going to pick it up next week. And we'll push further into why we believe Christianity is true.